So, good morning. I was taken by surprise because I got 5 minutes extra. I hope that I will be able to fill it. Otherwise, I'm sure you will have some interesting questions or remarks. Yes, good morning. It's my honor again to guide you through the state of the technical infrastructure this year. And I couldn't resist, as you can see, to have a nice analogy with the Sagrada Familia, because it gives kind of excellent opportunity to make the comparison to something, you know, a large construction of cathedral that is in constant, well, not reconstruction, but additions, changes. Over time, it takes a long time to make something like this. It's very much like the technical infrastructure. It's growing organically, it's being extended, and it's also very nice because sometimes you can see it in scaffolding like here. I hope also to give you a quick glimpse behind the scenes to understand what's all happening between our CLARIN scaffolding, so to say. Maybe I can give you already a short outline of what I will be talking about. I'll give you an update about the center infrastructure, so the B centers and the C centers, what's all happening there. I'll guide you through the main applications that we have centrally, so federated content search, virtual collection registry, the dog, the VLO, etc. And then we'll also have a look at some new things that have been launched and some things that give an opportunity for feedback. Good, the B centers. So these are our technical centers. These are the centers where the data repositories are hosted and where a lot of the, say, real technical offering is coming from. And as you know, or might not know, there is a kind of assessment procedure of this. Menzo already introduced it in the previous session. And there's a cycle of these assessments. So every 3 years, you have to go again through the assessment procedure. That means many of the existing centers go through the assessment procedure at a regular pace. And this year we had a successful reassessment of the Lindat CLARIAH-ES colleagues from Czech Republic, the Portolan CLARIN from Portugal, UDS in Saarbrücken from Germany, and I marked it here in yellow because of a stupid mistake. We were a bit late in announcing this, but the CIM Center, so the GAMS repository in Austria also was recertified. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows this. We were a bit late in announcing this. The blame is on me, but the good news is that it got successfully recertified. Bit of sad news is that the CMU TalkBank Center in the US decided not to continue as a B center. Had a lot to do also with kind of internal, say sustainability plans. The good news, on the other hand, is that they will continue as a knowledge center. So we will not completely lose them, but they won't be available, for instance, to be searched in Virtual Language Observatory. And then one final good news point is actually that we got, an exceptional B center from a country that is currently not a member, but that was, during the submission of the procedure, was an observer. That's France. And there is this Ortolan Center that has been recognized as a B center for the first time. I think that's actually a very nice thing because, of course, they're adding linguistically a lot of information. Technically, they're also doing a great job in having set up that center. And I think it's also good to be able to show that there is some kind of continuity, even in the case when there are kind of hiccups in the membership status, that there is still a technical collaboration and that you still will be able to find, for instance, those French resources through the CLARIN infrastructure, and that things like the persistent identifiers will remain to work. Good. Yes, then an overall overview of the current state of affairs. So we have currently 21 certified B centers. You can see that's a fairly stable number. I think the fact actually that this also stays stable or goes up slightly is already an achievement in itself, because it's not a kind of static thing, as I explained before. If you have a B center, you have to go through this reassessment procedure every 3 years. So you cannot just sit down and relax. You really have to keep on the work, and the fact that this stays relatively stable, I think is a good thing. Overall, the number of centers increased significantly, so we went to 73 registered centers, a lot of new knowledge centers that recently have been added. Sometimes, and we see that after a couple of years, some centers also get so demoted or are no longer a CLARIN center. This is also kind of natural evolution, I think. We're 10 years research infrastructure or even more. And then after a while, sometimes also for the sustainability, for the longevity, you have to decide that something is no longer ensured for the future. But the good thing here is that the big majority of these centers is kind of continuous and staying there. There's currently still 6 centers in the review pipeline. It's mostly in, how to say, timing issues. So we're much dependent here on the core trust seal process, which can take a long time. Many of you who have been through the process know, the kind of longevity that this kind of review requires, sometimes up to 2 years. We're in kind of constant discussion also with the core trust seal board, trying to address sometimes the issues that it takes really long time to get feedback. I think on the positive side, actually we also have been invited to become reviewers with the centers that have gone through the certification ourselves. And so maybe that will allow us to be more, how to say, involved in the process itself, and so that we can point out the problems and also make sure that the kind of community-specific information that is required for such reviews can be taken on board. There's a practical thing there that you first have to go through the certification before you can join as a reviewer, so that's why we haven't many reviewers yet on board, but I think it's a positive evolution. It will change. Small reminder for those who would like to participate in the upcoming B-Center review round. The deadline is end of this month, 31st of October, so please feel free to still submit it. You can find the information on the website. Interesting evolution here is also the fact that EOSC is evolving. And you might have heard in the last couple of months the fact that EOSC is also now more moving towards kind of federated setup. There is the concept of EOSC nodes that have been launched. I think just last week there was the launch of the EOSC EU node, so the node that is running at the European Commission. But they have mentioned explicitly that there is a willingness to look around at pre-existing infrastructures, as free research infrastructures, as CLARIN ERIC is, and we've also been invited to contribute there and to share our experiences. And I think this is an opportunity that we will be glad to take up and try to, tell about our experiences as a distributed research infrastructure, trying to avoid that double work is done, not trying to be hautain or so, but just trying to explain what it is that the challenges are that we are confronted with, how we have addressed them within our community, and trying to share these lessons learned that we have learned over the past 10, 12 years. If you're interested about that, I can refer you to Francisca, who will be presenting a nice poster about this afternoon at the bazaar. And there we will be around also to discuss and think about the concept of these EOSC nodes. Yes. So you can see the poster numbers there in the right-hand corner. Then up to the federated identity. So this is the system that allows you to log in with your institutional credentials to any of the CLARIN service providers. We have some KPIs for this, and as you can see that's going quite well. We have now 25 out of the 26 members that are connected to the service provider federation. That means that about 2,680 organizations, and the number could have gone up already, can basically log into CLARIN services. Interesting addition, of course, is the addition of Spain. So this also means that the Spanish researchers now can log into all the CLARIN services. Some more statistics. I won't bore you too much about this, but we have about 2,900 logins per month via the central discovery service. It's an underestimation because not every CLARIN service provider is using this central discovery service, but it's a kind of indication. And what is interesting to see here is that obviously 2021 was a kind of a peak, but that was probably related to the Corona period where many people were doing things online. We're almost up to the level there again. So it's growing, and you can see that there is a kind of, I would call it organic growth towards higher numbers. Good, then to some of our services. I think an important new kid on the block here is this Digital Object Gateway, abbreviation DOG, which allows you to basically use landing pages from repositories, well, first of all, of the real native CLARIN repositories. So every vCenter repository should basically work here. Also some of the specific CLARIN services, like the virtual collection registry. If you have a virtual collection, you can send it to the doc and it will recognize it. And then it will be able to extract both metadata about the collection or the object, and it will also be able to extract links to the digital object. So if you have, for instance, a data set somewhere in a repository, it will allow you to get directly to the byte stream, so to the files, so that you can download it and process it, if they are available. What we're trying to do with the doc is to extend this. So we're trying to reach out beyond the pure ecosystem of CLARIN repositories, and that is really looking into other repositories as well. So for instance, there is B2Share from EUDAT, or there is the Zenodo repository from OpenAir. They both happen to use the same repository system in Venio. And since the doc is aware about the idiosyncratic APIs for this repository, it can also extract this information. So the nice thing here is if you start your workflow to extract information with, say, external persistent identifiers, be it from something like in Zenodo, for instance, then it will allow you to basically quickly get the metadata and the link to the digital objects in a kind of abstracted way. You don't need to know the exact API specifications of Venio in order to do this. It's also our way of assurance to be compatible in the future. So for upcoming things like the fair digital objects, where some of the APIs are not completely specified yet, or the protocols are not completely specified yet, it will allow you to use this as a kind of abstraction layer. And this is actually quite a nice, I think, approach in that sense and that is in general a kind of recurring pattern in the CLARIN infrastructure. You're trying to take away a bit of the daily misery of you as researcher and infrastructure provider, and trying to solve that at a level where you don't need to bother about it. So it's abstracted away. You can use one API, one application in order to get access there. Now, this is a nice link to some of the work that we are doing in the Atrium project. The link is there, and you can read more on our website. But here we have one specific case. It's together with people like Henk and André, some more work with colleagues from ADS, the Archaeology Data Service in the UK, where our UK consortium is also closely connected to. The idea here is basically to use the doc to get access to data objects stored in an archaeology repository. And you could wonder, well, okay, how is that relevant to CLARIN? Well, actually, it turns out there's a lot of language resources in there. So, for instance, field reports of excavations are often in human language. And there's quite an interest in being able to use these language resources in a kind of more sophisticated way, for instance, by doing identity recognition to ensure that you can extract the relevant information from these often very long reports that you have. And so that is actually what we have been doing. We've been working on including this ADS service. The original hope was to be able to do that with an API. Turned out the API was not yet in shape that you could use it to fulfill these purposes, so we had to fall back to some HTML extraction and doing some magic there behind the scenes. This is not a pretty solution, but the good part of it, it's hidden away, or it's abstracted away for you as an end user. So at the moment where there is an API available and that's been promised, we can switch the kind of technicalities behind the scenes on our end, and you as end user, you don't need to care. You can still just throw in your DOI from the ADS and you will get the link to the PDFs that you then can use to, for instance, do some processing through the language resource switchboard and, for instance, the transcription portal for sound recordings in this case. Okay, so this is a short screenshot of the doc. You can play around with it. I noticed just before the presentation that it was down, so that's the annoying part about presenting alpha services here. But I promise you that we will have a look into that today, and we will try to get it up its feet again. But in any case, if you're interested, you can take a look at clarin.eu/doc, and we'll keep you informed about the progress on this, also when we officially launch it as more stable beta service so that you can test it out. Good, then over to metadata. We have the Virtual Language Observatory and the curation part of our work that we've been working on. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes here, and I will not bore you with the technical details, but I just want to mention it because it's quite how to say, substantial, and if this work isn't done, then everything after some time falls apart, so it's important. There's been some minor updates to the VLO in 4.11 and 4.12, with, for instance, the new CLARIN concept registry, which is based on Cosmos, being supported through the new APIs. We're also working, I should say Tuan is largely working on the component registry, a kind of new rewrite of this, because it needs some attention, and we'll take the opportunity also to try to pilot some of the more, well, newer frameworks like HTMX, and try to see if we can come to something that is easier to maintain on the long term. It's always a challenge. I don't need to explain that to the developers in this room, that with the libraries and so, it's always a bit of a trade-off between being stable long term and being fashionable and making sure you make use of the latest technology. So we'll try to figure that out a bit. Similarly, a lot of work has been done on the curation dashboard and the link checker, and for instance, through the use of the Java virtual threads, this is now a bit more, how to say, future-proof. I will not bore you with the details. The virtual collection registry, again, the same story, lots of practical bug fixes and maintenance work, very painful updates to newer libraries. Willem knows all about it, but he has done it, and it's actually really great. You can have a look at beta collections.clarin.eu, and then you see this slightly renewed interface, but the real magic has happened here behind the scenes, so updates to new libraries like Wicked and so. At the same time, you can try it out. It has a slightly fresher layout and so, and it will hopefully soon be launched. That brings me actually to the virtue of the virtual collections. You might have gotten this address card style piece of paper with a registration. It contains a picture and a QR code and a DOI of a virtual collection. And it's actually quite nice. We were discussing also at the office when preparing for the conference that many people would like to take some of the promotion material or the information material about CLARIN home. And meanwhile, it's quite a pile. You see a picture here. There's the 4 editions of the Tour de CLARIN. There is the CLARIN book. It's really like the Bible of CLARIN, 800 pages, a really amazing piece of work, and many people here in the room have co-authored it, but it's not so easy to take it in your bag when you're traveling. So we've thought of this address card-like alternative, and actually if you look at the QR code, if you go to the virtual collection registry, you can simply pick it up there, and it contains more than 1,000 pages. Just one virtual collection, one persistent identifier. You can use this, you can reuse this. I think it's quite convenient. And what I actually also wanted to mention here is that this is a nice example. But the really nicest part of this is that you can also use this when you are organizing a conference. So if you have PDFs or you have reports or whatever, you need to spread it to a review board or to general audience of a conference, you can go to collections.clarin.eu, just register a virtual collection, and in 5 minutes you also have your DOI to spread to the world. You can, if it's needed, you can update the collection afterwards, so that's a policy decision on your end, but it's very convenient. And if you then make a QR code of it or you post it on the social media, it's a very easy way to spread this information, also in a kind of sustainable way, because we guarantee that the persistent identifier will stay there. The metadata are registered. You will be able to find this virtual collection in the virtual collection registry, and even better, you will be able, through the virtual collection registry, to actually process the data in there. So if you have a PDF file or a text file, you will be able to send it to the switchboard and then process it with CLARIN tools. So it's very nicely integrated altogether. Then the federated content search. This is also one of the fields where a lot of updates have been happening. Lots of thanks there to Eric, who has been doing a lot of hard work on the FCS aggregator, on the FCS endpoint checker. We have a new version now. There is this great new FCS awesome list. I will show a screenshot of that. This Friday, we will be having in this very location, it's another meeting room, but it's here in Barcelona, a hackathon for people who are interested to connect their endpoints to the federated content search. And it's actually also still an opportunity. If you are around and you're interested, you can still join us. So just send us a mail or talk to us. There's still some spots available. If you're interested, you can join us. And there's also a widget to integrate the federated content search, so this search in multiple CLARIN corpora, into your own website. There's a whole forum post on this. You can take a look, and you can actually neatly integrate this into your website. Some quick screenshots. This is a very nice demonstrator, also from the Text Plus project, who's also been working on the FCS to do, for instance, a lexical search through the federated content search. And it also simultaneously demonstrates how you can create a new front end for the same backend. So this is basically reusing what there already was, but it has this nice viewified front end for the federated content search aggregator. This is a screenshot of the awesome list, maybe a bit technical, but if you have any questions or you're curious about, okay, where do I find the documentation? If you go to the FCS section on the website or you search for federated content search awesome list, you will find a long list with lots of informations, and I think this is very nice in terms of good documentation. Good. Then to the resource families. You might also have seen them. They have a prominent role on the website, for instance. Again, there's a lot of hard work being done behind the scenes. I will not bore you with all the details, but the big story here is that we are moving from kind of manually created overviews, rather textual, towards something machine readable, machine maintainable in the form of JSON files. Again, I have to thank Alex and Jacob for their hard work on this. And in the future, and this is maybe the most relevant, there will be all kind of nice, evolutions thanks to this curation that has been taking place. So it will mean that there are some entries which are not coming from CLARIN repositories, that they will also be able to be shown in Virtual Language Observatory. We will have a kind of automatic synchronization towards the SSH Open Marketplace, where the latest entries will be shown. And you will also be able to actually propose changes and fixes directly yourself in the GitHub repository, or make issues, which should help in getting things more quickly solved, because the pipeline will become less complex. Something on the overall backend services and reliability. So every year we publish this number of our total uptime. This year was a relatively low one. Well, low, it's 99.85% of uptime for all the services. And the interesting part is we, of course, did some kind of detective work to find out why is it so low. This is all related to a single incident. So this was some Friday afternoon during the summer vacation, where most people were on vacation. There was one person on duty, and he overlooked one of the alerts that came in. And then it meant that the virtual collection registry was unavailable from Friday afternoon until Monday morning, when the alert was noticed. So in a way, you can see how one small incident can have a direct influence on these statistics, especially because on average the number is so high. But still, we will take a look at it, trying to find out how to avoid this in the future. But at the same time, it reassures me that if this is the biggest issue that we have had over the last year, then it's probably quite okay. Meetings and outreach. We've had a lot of meetings, committee meetings. You've heard about it. We had our nice annual center meeting with special focus on a hands-on tutorial for the new CLARIN DSpace version 7. And actually, if you're interested in this, there is a full recording of that technical session. It's 3 hours on YouTube, where you can watch all the details and the setup things of the DSpace repository. I can recommend it if you're really into the technical setup, and if you want to learn a bit more about how to improve caching or whatever. It was discussed yesterday also at the center committee. We have our regular center news. There's a technical open hour, so this is also kind of open invitation. Once every month we have a kind of open Zoom session where everybody who is interested can just join, and where we try to answer questions or follow up on specific issues. It's been fairly, random in terms of the content, because you never know who is showing up and what questions will come up, but it's a kind of good alternative for talking to someone at the coffee machine or so, and it's very low threshold, so you can just join and talk to the experts. We found out this year that actually the forum that we launched last year also can double very well as kind of help desk infrastructure. So we have moved all our frequently asked questions to the forum, and at the same time we are also using it as a kind of shared inbox for the support of the CLARIN accounts. And likewise, this is actually also possible to do this for the case centers. So there's at least one case center who has already taken up this approach, and it's a very easy way of, commonly dealing with requests that are coming to kind of shared inbox. Also cross-institutionally, that's quite nice, because many people have a solution for this, but it's limited to a single university. And if, for instance, you have a distributed case center or whatever, where multiple people need to be able to deal with incoming requests, this can help as a very good solution, I think. Then to the center registry and the website, again, lots of work on the back end. Center registry was migrated to a new Django version. The website is now on Drupal 10. And you will probably notice that if you go to the overview of the centers on the website, that things are, first of all, differently styled. The map looks a bit better and the information is more up to date. That is because we now have finally a fully functioning workflow where we automatically import all the information from the center registry. A lot less administration and also more up to date. Similarly, some work has been done on the visualization and the information about the case centers, the knowledge centers, who will now in the very short future be fully administered through the center registry and the website. I actually wanted to thank Steven for this. He made the kind of prototype for this. He did a lot of work and he made the perfect prototype, because when you do it completely with one target in mind, not reusing any other software, so you can do it in a kind of perfect way. So it was a hard task also for André to kind of mimic all the functionality that was foreseen there by Steven. But I think we now got at a level where it's actually quite useful and nice. You can see it yourself in action if you go to the CLARIN website, then click on Network and Centers, and then you go to the case centers. You will find this new case center. It's in beta catalog. It's actually quite interesting. It gives a very good navigation possibility, and it's all based on a combination of the center registry and some additional information that has been added. Yes, on the website, a lot of work, and I have to thank Carina and Julia here, has been done also on the restructuring and inserting new menus on the website. You will find pages like this. If you click on the top menus, you will find these navigation pages. We warmly welcome feedback, because this is, something, as a Sagrada Familia, it's a constant reconstruction and changes. So any feedback here is very much welcomed. And I promised our web team to make some publicity for this. If you have feedback, you can either scan the QR code here, or I think there's also a poster in the corridor, or you simply go to the footer of any page on the website and you go to the website feedback button, and that will guide you towards a form where you can submit your feedback. We would be really thankful if you could do that, also for bugs or mistakes or things that you think should be done differently, because we really need your input on this. Sometimes if you're working on it, it's hard to see certain things, and as user of the website, it's you who should be in the driving seat and who can tell us how to improve things. Then one more thing I should mention here, and that's the fact that we have been working with the colleagues from the European Language Database. It's many of the CLARIN centers who are involved in that, especially our Athena colleagues from Greece. They have been working on a kind of first it's called Language Database Connector for repositories. We're currently also looking for volunteering CLARIN centers who are interested in setting that up. I cannot bother you with all the details, but there is a forum post about it. And if you're curious about this, please talk to me during the coffee breaks or send me an email, and I would be glad to follow up on it. It gives some specific opportunities for visibility and even for monetization of specific data resources if your repository allows for that. Good, then what rests me here is to thank all the people who have been making this work possible. And it was a great opportunity of referring to a nice tradition in the Catalonia area here of standing on each other's shoulders. And this is exactly what we are doing here, of course, in the community. We're working together and reusing efforts that have been made by other people. And it's only thanks to the people in all the committees, I especially want to mention the Center Assessment Committee here, the task forces, all the people in the national consortia who have been doing hard work to make this possible, and of course also our full central developer team and anyone I might have forgotten here, because as you can see, it's a large community. Thank you very much for your attention. If there's any questions, I will be glad to take them.
Thank you so much for this improvement and this wonderful opportunity to see the full glance of the infrastructure. A couple of years ago, CLARIN ERIC teamed up with Re3 Data to kind of connect the data from our center registry to Re3 Data. Don't know if we are always aware of that. So when we maintain our data in the center registry, is there another way of also maintaining the Re3 data automatically? Or is there a connection, an API, or should we take care of that ourselves? Yeah. I think there's some major changes coming up in Re3 data, for example, that they will allow CMDI as one of the metadata formats. At the moment, it's just DataCite or Dublin Core, which is allowed there in the field.
Yeah, you clearly know more about the latest state than I do, but in principle, at the time when we had the talks with Re3 Data, the idea was indeed that they would automatically synchronize this. The only problematic part was that they hadn't implemented that yet. So in practice, they were regularly looking into the things that's showing up in the center registry and then manually curating that. We do have APIs for the center registry, obviously, and what I noticed recently, that was actually just last week at the launch of this EOSC EU node, is that, for instance, the information when I was searching for CLARIN, the CLARIN repositories do show up. So somehow, I think it is Re3 Data, DataCite, and then being harvested by OpenAir or so, they show up in this catalog. So you can, well, it's not launched officially yet. You have to know the beta address of the catalog. But I think it will be officially launched next week at the EOSC EU Symposium, and then you can search for CLARIN, and you should be able to find the CLARIN repositories. I'm not saying it's the latest state of affairs, so I think it's actually a very good action point for us to take a look at how recent the information of Re3 Data is, and to make sure that if it's not recent, to let them know that they should synchronize it either automatically or manually. Thanks.
Hi Dieter, you mentioned the new EOSC node concept, and some of us might have seen the launch of that recently. Very exciting all, but I did not quite get, was the suggestion that individual CLARIN centers could become an EOSC node, or that CLARIN as a whole could be an EOSC node? I'm sure there is a poster about that, but I think it's interesting to hear you answer it also.
Yeah, I think that there is no full answer to it yet. I think, and that is part of the thinking also on the side of EOSC that is evolving. So I think what would make most sense, but it's my personal opinion, it will need to be discussed, is to make sure at least that CLARIN is registered as a node within EOSC, and that then ideally all the CLARIN centers who are registered in the center registry also get some kind of recognition. At what level that is, that will need to be discussed. There will, I think in November, there will be a workshop in Milan about the topic of how to do this exactly, and trying to give some feedback. People from S3 and from ERIC Forum will also be involved there. The BOD will also be represented there. So I think my ideal is to make as much reuse as possible of what we have there, and also to make it part of the value proposition of CLARIN also. So if you do the effort of setting up a CLARIN center, then it should automatically translate, if everybody agrees on that, of course we need to check that, but it translates into visibility as an EOSC node, ideally. But this will come down also to, for instance, questions like, okay, how are the requirements shaped for forming an EOSC node? What does it mean exactly? What are the financial implications? All these kind of things, and these discussions haven't come to an end yet. It's just the starting of a discussion. So I think what we can do there is try to be involved through collaboration with, for instance, the NCF, making sure that we stay all at the same message there in terms of how we want to give this shape, and then trying to avoid that maybe some common pitfalls are made there. It's not so easy to manage a full distributed setup, and especially if you have federations of federations of federations, it becomes very diluted at a certain point. So we will need to see how to strike a reasonable balance there between having one big node or a kind of federated node. But I'm all, as you know, I'm all in for a federated approach with all the CLARIN centers.